Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've already been introduced. My name is Tenna, Eliasen. And I'm going to talk about this paper that I'm writing together with Marianne. And yeah, and it's a part, the work is a part of my master degree, where Marianne was my supervisor. So yeah, I'm the practitioner and Marianne is like the academic one too. Yeah. So I have the following agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about the motivation and research question, the research design and the method, the generative tools that we used, and the findings for information architecture and user experience, and the overall results of the study. So how do you talk with users about information architecture? That's a big question. The motivation for looking into this area was a curiosity about if it is possible to talk to users about information architecture. Is it too abstract for them? Or do they even pay attention to it? Or would they be able to express what they want and why, and in a way that is actually meaningful in the design? I found some inspiration in the article from Finn and Hobbs, where they say that the elements in information architecture supports, like the graphic design, functionality, and content. They are often explicit, but they are tactically experienced by the user. So, if we look at this model from Lykke et al., maybe it is possible to use participatory design and generating tools to open up the user experience and their feelings about information architecture, so we can actually discuss it with them. Yeah, just a quick overview of my theoretical understanding, so you know where I'm coming from. I look at information architecture in the understanding by Rosenfeld et al., and the way they look at organizations, schemes and structures, labeling systems, navigation systems, and search systems. And when I talk about participatory design, it's the definition of Sanders and Stavros as a design approach involving users as partners. And Lykke et al. Defines generation tools as a method for context mapping the user experience by letting them construct artifacts that the designer can analyze and get a deeper understanding of the user needs. What have other done? The aim was to extend our knowledge about participatory design and generation methods and how it could be used to acquire knowledge for the design of information architecture. And the first thing was to look at what others have done. But within the design of information architecture, very difficult word, there are only a few examples where it's developed with a mindset, with this mindset and method. But we did find some examples. And what they told us was that cognitive toolkits, for example, mind mappings and diagrams and building models, is particularly useful for this. So that's actually nothing new. The generation tools that others have been using is actually known. It's nothing new and special. But the question is, how can they be used to involve users in the discussion about information architecture, and what influences whether the method will provide useful insights? So, to examine this question further, we did a case study on the digital collections from the Royal Danish Library. And it was an exploratory study, and we analyzed how the tools allowed users to interactively develop and evaluate information architecture design ideas. Yeah, and just a little bit about the digital collection at the Royal Danish Library and why it was a suitable case for this study. The library is a national library and doesn't just contain books, but also all sorts of other materials that we are obligated to digitalize and provide access for. For example, the Flora Danica here, but also open maps and handwritten books and catalogs and photos and art drawings and even political party programs. And also sounds and videos, for example, or TV advertising groups. So we have a huge amount of data. And yeah, really a large collection, but they are placed in many different portals, websites, and systems. And some of these systems are even of older date. So yeah, it gives the user a bit of a challenge when they are searching for materials. So what we want is a complete solution which provides easy and user-friendly access to the digital cultural heritage in the Royal Danish Library, so that the collections gets better distribution and use among the citizens in Denmark. Yeah, and due to the amount of the content, the information architecture is actually the key element in providing a good user experience. Yeah, so we were especially interested in getting the insights to design information architecture that supports the user's search process. We wanted to try out 3 different generation tools for different stages in the design process. If you look at the design process through the lens of design thinking, the previous studies showed us that the method was often used in the stages of emphasize, and ideate, and prototype. So therefore, we wanted to create tools that were supporting these 3 stages. And the research method. We had a 2-hour workshop. We had the 3 toolkits, and we invited 7 participants. There was 1 facilitator and 2 observers. The workshop was structured about the make session followed by say sessions. And for the data collection, we used recordings and photos of the artifacts and also the observation notes. The participants were sampled in relation to the library's target group, and it was both users with a lot of knowledge about the domain, but also some less frequent users. The say activity after each make activity was a significant factor in this method, because it was here the participant most clearly expressed their needs by explaining the meaning of their artifacts and by participating in the discussion with the other participants. So the recording was a very important part of the data collection and the following analysis. Yeah. So how did the tools work enhance the users? And what insights did they give for the design process? The first toolkit was for sensitization, and it was sent home for the participants. It consisted of a notebook with a task and questions about their search process, and also pencil and crayon so they could draw or write whatever they felt like. My intention was to make the participant reflect and become more aware of their behavior and preferences, because it's actually really abstract to talk about information architecture, and preparation can trigger the participant memory. In the picture, for example, you see a drawing from one of the participants. It's an ironic comment on whether you should be able to find the library's search results in Google. Right now, there's like really room for improvement, and the user here, he's not really happy about the current state. The toolkit was also used in a warm-up session where the participant discussed their answers and ranked what was most important to them when searching for materials. And already here, it turned out that the participant was actually really good at talking about information architecture. And it was a bit of a surprise, because we actually didn't ask for this when we were recruiting them. But they used words like categorizing and filters and metadata and algorithm, etc. So yeah, maybe today's users are actually used to their digital surroundings so that the language is not too foreign for them. At least this group of participants had a very high IT technical skills. So yeah, that was interesting. And also the toolkit was also a very good common starting point for the workshop, which the participant often returned to, especially one task we had from the notebook where they had to search for a political party program. Use that task during the whole workshop to return to. Yeah. The second toolkit, that was for mapping the information seeking journey. And it was meant for the emphasize and ideate phase. It was a combination of a cognitive and a storyline toolkit. You can see there's a timeline brought in the toolkit. And it was made of materials like papers and different shapes for building a 2D model of the journey. And it also had trigger card with pictures of features, function, and content that could be in a system like this. And it also had trigger card with words that could be used in labels. And this is some of the insights we got from the artifacts with the toolkit. This is from one of the group. And what this said about the artifact was, for example, that Zalando and Spotify, that's what we want. And another group, it looked quite different. He made this. And their starting point was, you don't necessarily start your search in the Royal Danish Library's website. You start the search in Google. Yeah. And these quotes, they are maybe not very surprising. But it told something about the participants' starting point, their knowledge and their experience. Their knowledge and experience came from other systems and even web shops where they had good or bad experiences when searching. Again, a significant observation was that the participant did not speak in metaphors, but described the information actor directly with familiar terms and references to other systems. And it was largely their explicit information architecture knowledge that came forward, helped along by the associations they got via the toolkit. As I mentioned, most of the participants had very good IT technical skills, and they didn't have like major problems understanding and using the toolkit to do the task that we gave them. But one participant, he actually did struggle. He was a regular user at the library and our services, but he admitted that he preferred to get help from a real librarian in person. So you could call him an IT novice, and yeah, he maybe could have needed a different set of toolkit to work with, or the facilitation kind of IT novice could have been different. But the toolkit helped us to give us an insight about what the user experience, about the user's experiences, and for example, the subject terms like customization, filtering, and federated search, and how we could choose to design the information architecture to support these expectations. And the last toolkit, it was meant for evaluation of the user interface design and was for the prototyping phase in the design process. And it consisted of dot coding of a high fidelity prototype of a new information architecture that we made for the system. The system doesn't exist yet, so it's, it's a prototype. They usually evaluated the prototype and features by indicating with red pearls what they didn't understand or didn't like, and with green pearls the things they thought was a good solution, and with the yellow pearls what they thought maybe this would work with different adjustment or with some adjustments. And the toolkit, the toolkit gave us an understanding and how the participant browsed in the visual design and how they understood the function of the different elements in the interface. But where the first toolkit and the second toolkit proved well suited to get the participant involved in the discussion about information architecture, this toolkit provided the fewest insights. But that doesn't mean that it's inappropriate for the purpose, but there's a lot of parameters that you have to consider when you're designing those kind of toolkits, and also how you facilitate them, and also very important, the time available for the activity. Because we did actually use a bit of time to get the participant confident in the using toolkit 2. And yeah, we didn't see the full potential in this toolkit because we were running out of time and had to rush through the presentation of it. I think I skipped one. Yeah. So what findings did we get for how the information architecture can support the user experience? So what components for information architecture did they talk about that could have an influence on their experience? First of all, we talked about button-up information architecture, about when we were starting the search in Google, how the search results should be presented and how our system should support that. We were talking about filtering and metadata requirements. For example, what words should be used in labels and how our metadata should support this. We also talked about federated search and how they didn't want it to go to different portals to search for materials. They wanted it all in the same place. We talk about algorithm versus advanced search, what they prefer, and that maybe advanced search only was for some users and not all. And we also talked about personalized navigation, user account, and customization. For example, that we would want to be able to mark out their favorites and to be able to save them for later and go back and work on their search results, because you know the process when searching for these kind of materials are quite complex, and it requires a lot of work and thought for whatever you need to use the material for. Yeah, and what kind of user experience did they expect getting from the library and in such a system? Well, they wanted to be received by a welcoming librarian who can quickly find what the user are looking for, plus something they may also be interested in. He wanted the system to be involving, learning, and personal. And again, yeah, the road to the goal was just as important as getting your assignment solved. And also, the insights was visualized in a storyboard. You see it here in the picture. For the use to give developers ideas on what and how to design in the system to support the user's experience. The benefit here was that the participants' language about information architecture actually didn't need much translations, but it was very easy to transfer the insights into the storyboard and also into user stories that told the developers how different components could support the user experience and why it was an important need for the user. And last slide, the overall result of the study. Well, the method is useful for getting the participants to participate in discussion about information architecture, particularly in the emphasize and the ideate stage in the design process. And the participant contributed to creating choices by providing insights that could be used for idea generation, for new solution for the digital collections. And also, very important, the participants' level of IT technical skills might influence whether they can be included in this discussion. So therefore, facilitation is especially important as it is abstract to talk about information architecture. And yeah, a toolkit for preparation is very effective at getting the participant to associate and maintain focus on the task. That was all for me, so thank you.